Billy Tice and cast dwelt coast, each talus poken, and of individuals saw Asian ngup, and then is lively, and his sea, me and other ye, and there did them, yep, and at him, ching aspel in the Syria, e that mince evils, e that did them, toots pure list deep from p into ret, his to him, t them, there shall herit first ild, shall, ed for kingdom lay you, anner ye, great cutity salt altered, t to be of men, e that put it and it orpha oi the story in and l in no filed, one of chipmen kingdom teaching the t or s of old case.
MCs.
Am I?
Let's start.
All right. I don't have anything particular planned, but I'll talk a little bit about that. So this is a set, we're going to be remembering Jim Leftwich, who a lot of people in this room knew quite well, and some people didn't. Jim, on the local level, was a huge part of the early stages of what's kind of culminated in this community.
Started out with Collab Fest.
Yeah, started out with Collab Fest, which is kind of like the table that Tom's got going over there, just kind of bringing people together from the city and just kind of sitting and doing collage and exchanging information and then connecting with that all over the world.
TAZ.
Yeah. So that, and then from there got involved with the Marginal Arts Festival, which is where then AfterMAF comes out of that. So yeah, we wouldn't be here without Jim's role. He put Warren and me and Tom up in the city. Sorry. And then on the what's that?
Generous.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
is
I mean, insanely generous.
Insanely generous and someone who you could talk to about any subject.
He will know more about it than you.
And you will take your expectation of what he's gonna say and flip it. So you're always surprised in a conversation with Jim, and there's always value. A mail art community giant,
And then
of a proportion that's kind of unscalable.
yeah. I think
Text
on the
image poem.
What's that?
Text image poem. I mean, like putting an
Yeah.
archive there, right?
A major blog for the avant-garde with probably tens of thousands of posts over the years. And on the national and international level, which I think some people locally are aware of and some people are not aware of, like the scope. Yeah, the full scope of Jim's activity and importance. And as a publisher, he published Extant and Juxta, which are both really important visual poetry and avant-garde poetry magazines. And he's definitely one of those poets who's going to be read more in 100 years than he was during his life, because he's so far ahead. And which is also a big part of like the visitors here. Like Jim was the first Jim's the reason I first visited Roanoke. It's the first reason that Venice first visited Roanoke, because of taking that international network and bringing it local, and then kind of creating those cross pollinizations. So today we're a bunch of friends of his are going to be reading reading passages from his work, maybe poems written for him. I'm not sure whatever he's done.
Also something that he never would do.
That was, I was saying earlier, we had a little bit of a discussion because Jim never read his work. He hated reading his work. We're like, is it okay to read his work? I think it's okay to read his work. So I'm sorry, Jim.
I sign his work.
What's that?
I sign his work.
That's true, yeah, yeah, and I've done, yeah. So, yeah, no, that's my weird rambling off the cuff introduction, I guess. So yeah, we don't have a real specific plan. I think just a bunch of us have brought stuff in to do, and we'll figure out as we go how that's going to work in kind of collaborative fashion. So, but John's going to start out reading some of the stuff, and we'll go from there. So.
Okay, I knew Jim from somewhere in the mid-90s, and we collaborated for all those years in between. And it was a very interesting process. One of the things that was interesting about him is that he developed a different way of approaching books and poems that he read. He would not apply a critical theory to them, which was the vogue at the time and still is to some extent, but he would write about what happened to him or happened in his mind as he was reading something. And gradually those two functions came together and were basically the same with slightly different emphases. What I'm going to read today is from the last book that Luna Bisonte published of his. He never got to see this copy. He died right before we could get one to him. Called Pit Swan and Orbate Writing. I had some copies for sale there, but they're sold out. You can buy it online, however. It's one of his best and most interesting. What I'm going to do here, I did a hack, which was a way of reading passages from these two books that make up this single book here. Pit Swan. In the pit a swan, in the swan a words, in the words a tract, in the tract a curve, in the curve a canyon, in the canyon a being, in the being a hasp, in the hasp an ear, in the ear a root, in the root a mucus, in the mucus a facsimile, noise, have, heave, mirror, encircled in the fire, toothbrush in the wind, the wince, the whistle, lung, tongue, sang, incubator, circles, feet inside, aside, syllabic, carbon. The knees crush, city past freeze, the apron weaponized, deep chicken mirrors, caked insect dust, naked insect dust, the poem rust vine, ear-hung spoon memory, stuffed gland, knee surface, chasm pillow, volcano pillow, volcano pillow, volcano pillow, cal volcano pill, volcano. Wind face the word listing, robot signage to bed, bedded in the road round, utter cloud, egg. For text, switch body, plum text gland, olmekic. Oh, I'm turned the wrong way here. Olmekic, gnat, half lit, half stark, shoe, frogs, vacuum, Ethiopia, lungage, asteroid, terrend, meteor, upplop, glue, fog, etude, shear, time, knife, ear, tell, burger, dog, hot frogs, hot dogs, livers, cortic, isthmus, tooth, fire, flit, carnate, milk, gnats, now permit limit. Brack sauce, science dust, pensive steer, horizon mode, fog vats, word doodads, nut poem, not caesura. And from Orbe writing, read the orb, line extinct, no farther but farther, but into the itching sphere, rotting sun. Read the poem for ever, never the same, no end, one on. Water in words, sloshing sleep, weeds kitchen, circle back and Eleric en la hacienda espérica, palabras in water, es movimiento of landscape, again, ni agan, muck enigma, hand, mind returns, is sweat juts, disease feathers, beat feet, meat leak, nascent boom. Garbled worm aspirin splashes, radio gulch, recombinant mask, snake cloud, agnosia glare, diploid, bow, crow, crowbar, abrogated, frozen feet, box drips, shoes and tongue, swill and mold, snug wheel and hushed ladders, fuss, scissors, ploy, semantic, wreckage, sea mind, words, aporia, bellowed story, codex, mirrors, walk, mirrors, ladders, mirrors, verdict, mirrors, school, gravel style, cave style, thawed horse, snape, corn, knob dust, dharma, electic, eaten, ampule, optics, eaten. Okay, thank you. This will be published along with an article online on July 4th, I'm told, by Rob McLennan's blog. He's a Canadian publisher. So next.
App setting.
The deep end of a chicken, perennial intricacies, accelerates niftier, mitochondria, verbally monolithic, leveraging an estimated valve, salamander mantra, vitriol, mitosis, octagonal, pertinent, putting on the stuff to upper lip. And that was from Pit Swan as well.
Ad setting.
I'm going to read a few from Bursting Presence here.
Anti-setting.
Rigorous dawning hinge. Zebra. Very era. Zoologist. Zebrail. Batteries. 5. California. Zebrandish.
Anti-setting.
Or baked.
Process gaze to be transmutation. Delirium American Comprador Mycelium Pre-industrial tentacle spreading frizz-sun moments. Cosm, 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 Cosm.
Adjective obsolete, last used circa the mid-1500s.
Poetry is not a game, first-person shooter video, or any other variety.
Having no father and no children, having no parents and no children, no past and no future, no origins and no endings.
Burnished and emptier.
Poetry is not a popularity contest.
Turmeric.
Insect.
Poetry is not a fashion show.
Isle of Soul.
I should go without saying that there is no such writing. It only exists as an imaginary aspiration to the impossible.
Poetry is not a sport, extreme or otherwise.
Wheeling cut.
Eusemic.
Soothsayers.
Exsemic.
Nerve mind twitching.
Foresemic.
Cooking eye. Welcome cooking.
Poetry is not a drug, neither of the new designer Moncro dose variety, nor of the old shamanic heroic dose variety.
It is closer in spirit to the asemantic than it is to aesthetic. But
Intersemic. Insemic. Oosemic. Midsemic.
even there, the similarities of them malleable,
Missemic.
porous.
Nonsemic.
Poetry is not an advertisement for the individual ego. Appendix, poetry is not science, and poetry is not math.
Eye renting rotting comb. Straggle.
Osemic.
Bridge disused. Lovely.
John Cage showed us
Tea.
that emptiness, stillness, and silence are inevitably polysemous
Resemic. Resemic.
as
Semisemic.
experiences.
From a letter to John F. Bennett about the collaborative poetry book Sound Rituals, written with Billy Bob Beamer in 2017.
Your house, our humans.
Subsemic.
I got the title from an article about a Cecil Taylor performance from the 1980s. In some of his live recordings, he seems to build the structure from his improvisations during the performance itself. Certain kinds of poems can be written that way as well. In a sense, the writing of a poem is always a sound ritual, and the collaborative writing of a poem is even more so.
Supersemic.
Sound ritual number 4. Mysteries reside in the last half of the holographed bait, bat, beat, bet, bite, bit, boat, bot, but. Spirit resides in flesh like vowels, in consonants B, B, C, D, D, F, G, H, J, K, L, M.
I am looking in a mirror as I write this.
I'm imagining
My subjective weather!
this polysemous
the shaded elm, entry elm. No. Put nonis, ain't to apple under ground vertical. Birds.
Before the fall, if we can accept it as useless.
Rose is a rise, is a leg, is a log, a lag.
On the 7. 1, window 3.
Of course.
Your zip one, zip own.
Abundant. Abundant.
Smelting Tycho on thermal history wisps.
Mysteries corral in the second half. Faded flesh to consciousness bent. Seven.
Beside the tigers, rarely two picks.
First askew laminate.
A caricature of tonic essence.
Dominates skin thirst a jar in the sun.
Though the working life of pre-checkout plastic bags may be somewhat longer, 15 minutes is the average for plastic bags in general. In the past, each plastic bag will have been famous for the entirety of its working life.
So untimely and so hot. If this was Sunday,
Meant home my story is.
time in a shoebox.
Pitch fever. Lung dandy. That your fiddling? Restitate wrong plot.
Campbell's soup.
Dear reader, what do you dislike the most about the 10,000 things of poetry?
A shoebox of time.
Gams fish crack sort.
Donations of stored fidelity notwithstanding face off.
Toast tomorrow.
I started making bag texts in the summer of 22.
Pungfish innate or boar rest severed.
Authority outsings the ruined operas.
Leather vests.
And antiotrope.
Door. Fiddling.
Inflation. Before
Gummish.
Fahrenheit.
Flowing rivers.
Splat. Sore. Glish yam.
Of opinion and majorities.
On my way home.
Nat Fort
In
Blitz.
the Yamaha Writing School
And Fee Rob.
at the Ohio State University in Columbus.
LSAT.
I've been making them on and off
Pendulum with
ever
miniskirts.
since.
Look.
Sometimes I imagine that I am writing what I want to read, but most of the time I am only writing what I want to write.
But
I never get around to thinking very much about what others might want to read.
LSAT petulant with miniskirts, ostrich cheese and aspic. The
Abstinent.
absurd infidels.
Were you in a helicopter? No. We are in late fall.
Get along right here beside the tigers.
Good.
Seedless byline sales. Rent ho fee made fat lithin curds.
Bah.
Winner.
Ever dished plungish?
Terminator.
Started making bag text in the summer of 2002.
Indoor
2002.
Note from 2021, written to Mark Young, editor of Photoliths in the third person. By the time you read this, he should be somewhere between the Mojave Desert and the Oregon coast, traveling with Sue in a van with their cats. Gas prices in California are very high. Water levels in Lake Mead are very low. It has been written that Donald Trump was the first declinist president of the United States. Don't believe a word of it. Every American president since Eisenhower has been a declinist.
Romance of the cataclysm evolves the whirls.
So, or even his poem, a writing collaborative, The And.
Word rusts.
Often adventured up.
Carapace safely beguiled. Decoy criticizing the infidelity of such a queen.
He had a heart of silver.
Ritual sounded always is poem of a writing the.
Proselytize, no opaque twerks this ethical in part.
Adores in the salamander.
So a common gnarl scarves the gestural abstraction.
Sensei in.
Similar.
Historical codes for everyone.
Deep tops obliquely, equivalent to fever.
Well, as way that written began.
Doubt is the ludic noon of a nasal wood.
Poems of kind certain.
The plastic treatise of
Some insights, but only implications of the improv.
Its performance during improvisations, his for structure, the build to seems he.
Careful with the enlightened sway of your obscene decorum.
Recordings live his of some in.
Dictum peaks the connotations.
80s 19, the From performance, Taylor Cecil, about article and from title, The Got I.
Connectives qualify.
Well, spot in the shape.
everywhere.
And student existing. This happens in
Abusive breathing.
tape.
Discursive thyroid approximates in groups.
Spackled.
The null of the paranormal sedan of creativity. Method was the toy technique of the philosophy. Forget it.
Thank you all.
I was like, this is cool. And Olcar's like, yeah, you should mail stuff to Jim and these other people on here. And so I did. And then I found out, you know, mail art, small press publishing. Jim would always emphasize that it was all about also small press publishing, not just visual art or add and pass, you know, TLPs and stuff like that. And then we had a festival in New Jersey in 2008, and then Olcar was like, let's do these phone poems. So, you know.
That was the first Collab Fest.
First Collab Fest, that's right. And I was like, okay, so apparently somewhere here in Roanoke, it was actually on the 5th Street at the water heater, they were doing, it was once a week or once a month?
Twice a month.
Twice a month?
Yeah,
You did like
every
82
every other
or
Wednesday.
something, right? You did like 80 of them or something like that,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, so that was
Maybe
cool, and it was
more.
like, we would read these poems into the phone to random people, but at the Collab Fest,
We probably
anybody.
know now, but we have no idea who the fuck they were at the time.
That's right. Like at Collab Fest, random people would just show up, so you'd have like Lloyd Paget playing the bicycle in the corner, Jim painting a poster on the floor, and then people just hanging out at a table, and stuff like that. So we came down for one of those, and that was a lot of fun. And then Olcart came back and was like, I went to the Marginal Arts Festival, it was awesome, you guys all gotta come. So we went to that too, and eventually we were like, this place is cool, we're gonna move down here. And so Jim, like they said already, Jim and Sue were super friendly and supportive and generous, and they helped us move down here. I loved hanging out with Jim because, again, he was like an encyclopedia of poetry and art, world history, and current events.
Everything.
That's right.
Politics.
And so Warren would call us being the Jim
I
Sponge.
think you coined that.
No, you did.
I did.
Neoism coined it. And Jim was always a great friend because he always encouraged people's project ideas and always encouraged people to collaborate with each other. And he never was like, that sounds horrible, don't do that. He was like, if you wanted to do something, he was all about it. You know, like one time, Aaron, his son, wanted to quit his job and be a blacksmith. So then him and Sue let us just tear up their backyard and build like a forge and start randomly hammering on steel. So that was cool. He got me into all kind of music. So like all the folk rock guys like Crosby, Stills, Nash, Bob Dylan, the Fugs, Ed Sanders, Rise Cooder, and then all these jazz dudes, Albert Eiler, Cecil Taylor, Roswell Rudd, John Coltrane, William Parker, Miles Davis. He loved Sun Ra, you know, so that's cool. And then all the crazy stories from the Virginians going from Virginia to California, how to find all the scenic routes,
That's all the
hitchhiking.
stories I'm sure he didn't tell about that time.
Yeah, well,
Probably because we didn't know where to go.
throwing toilets out of the third floor or something, or whatever. And he was really good at, I always say like Jim's the most social person I knew because he knew thousands of people all around the world. But then he was also the most antisocial person I knew because he spent 14 hours a day by himself, like writing and reading, cataloging all the stuff he collected in his boxes and working on his small press publishing. So yeah, he was like super hyper attention to details and like a hyper focus. I mean, I can't look at a poem for like 30 minutes and he would just like go all in, like I said, 14 hours a day. I don't know if you guys ever been to his like office, but it's just filled with books and boxes of art. You know, he's
Walls
got
were covered.
walls were covered, and he would like switch it up all the time. You know, he'd be like, "You should read my series, 6 Months Ain't No Sentence," but it's like 150 volumes. You know, like gigabytes and gigabytes. I downloaded it, but I'm like, man, I need a lifetime to read all this stuff. But I guess the way I kind of looked at the poetry, and John kind of hinted at it, like looking at it, how do you read it? What does the brain do when you read that kind of stuff? So I kind of always considered it like brain games. So it's like, you know, you pick words and then kind of play with words. It's almost like what does your brain think up before you even think about it? He'd always use the phrase like thinking about thinking. And so like from the No One Window 49, he's got a line that's like, the belly below, bell, babe, leads, obelisk, ailment, Paris, parkas, harness, purse, say, praxis, Landon, slit, atoned furs, parsed, parades, parade, pharaoh, phrased, parapets. And so that was cool. And then I guess you guys worked together forever, and so it was cool to have him break down your poems, John. The one that always stuck out to me was the P-text. You know, he just kind of was like, check out P-text. And I was like, okay. And it's like 2 columns, and I guess 4 stanzas. And if you just read it like you usually read it, you know, just left to right, top to bottom, I mean, you're like, okay, whatever, that's a poem. But then you'd be like, okay, you know, what if you read the first line first and then the last line of the second stanza? And then it kind of comes together in different ways. And the way the words get broken up, it's like something I never considered with poetry. And I'm not obsessed with poetry like these guys. Like maybe this is like a poetry thing, but I don't know. But it'd be like the way the words, it's like it's not about words, it's about letters. And it's like, oh, okay, thinking about it on the letteral level. But then it's like, okay, subletteral investigations. So like what's smaller than the letter? Well, you have letteral shards. you know? So it's just like, what, that's crazy. But the way that,
Sepia and then
You're right.
Subatomic particles. And
yeah, exactly. He writes, that's exactly how he writes about it.
Jim
And
was always
dressable
grasping
and
past whatever was possible.
Cool,
As soon as
yeah.
something revealed itself to be possible, he had to push through that and break through it.
That's right. And so with the unconventional like breaking up of words in the letters, you read a sentence like from the P-text and it says, the lazy sword swallowed, but then because your brain kind of, you don't even know it's doing it, the way it's reading it, you know, it's like you can also see the lazy word swallowed, or like the lazy word allowed, or something like that, you know. Here's an example from invasive plants. Where were they when the wind cried Mercury? From QWERTY, why were they quietly witty working? Technocratic query, tea leaves endeavors, reeking of peach. Yeah, so all this like Jim created a catalytic word world from behind the scenes of the brain before we even know what it is. And then I guess everybody can do that. Like if you just affirm the present and you kind of think about, you know, by reading the poem, you're also writing the poem at the same time. And he'd also frequently use the phrase, writer be written, which I think he attributed to William Blake. Right.
One of the ways that he borrowed this from me, actually. I wrote something, but I didn't write the word that I had in mind. I wrote a word that sounded like it, and did a lot of writing that way. And he was impressed by that, apparently, and developed his own approach to that kind of thing. It's a way of getting at what's behind your thinking in your mind. Because the words that sounds like it could be any word that sounds like another word. So it came out of your head. So that's what's going on back there.
So I'm going to read some excerpts from Sound Dirt, because I think that was the first, one of the books we used in the sound poems, the phone poems we did every month. So this is like my first introduction. So let's see, this is Sound Dirt, Jim Leftwich and John Bennett, 2007? No. 2006.
Awesome.
Yeah. So let's see. C. Onsiv defsk tur lack, curlest ponsiv stun, pituitary gist lungfish slud, departuric promi storm, glommy referturic canker, aerosloft dicey slugger, detect wern mem cries slaver, end size swarm po-rect porks, nova ravel lucra slats, asts havet gowl sugar, sal retet plasts moat, loud swivels, lament facker, tavernal, smem soil wool, should pole smeg radner cases, spinal bookend dithers bond fomp, und eliters, cudis dedinal day, penal lucus ditters, gond plasters, tavern semen oil spist, falls mug scrivener fold, homon selays anund flank, pout swivelers lamont eeps, vowel replete casts moster, ecur of al manter, nopa roval lacqueral swirl, envy swarm parsec crink, Feisty hoff alam puddles, Iran coughed, lycee reek, gloomy reef arctic shunger, a duance dist itillary phantod, pituitary pist glungeance merger, curd list pensive show. Janah's son, Janah Salab, you clunking aim thy sterobe alchemime aid and hopping earner, J cougar spared tongues, sea lungs, arid sugar age earned hopping medine, ah my stroked camera, Sun King labyrinth thaws. That's old one. This is new. This is from 2023. Scott McCloud published, also a cool guy. Luckily still alive.
It was a week ago.
Yeah, as far as we know. That's good. All right. So this is when Jim and Sue were traveling up and down California and through the desert, Arizona. This one's called Invasive Plants. Every river forever yellow, televised yawning cottage, yet fettuccine. The last poem between the holes are in order, in the kitchen door, simultaneously sycamore and menu, lava. Until overconsumption, quilt continents, quilts owls loathe, placebo, woodland, perfect pitch black, ribbons on demons, orbiting Brooklyn, spreading reckless tempos, foresaw all dill consumption, gondola frozen, gazebo dirt flecks, gibbous demonstrative, drizzle forbidden hobbits, frogs hopping, frosty hopping, flop goop, job is to plop, hesitate the kites, hibernate the snows of Iwo Jima, libations, litmus of the highlands, nodded.
Distant resonance with some of the beat poets in that kind of writing, which he did often.
Okay, yeah, he loved those guys, all those like American,
Snyder and all that.
Ted Berrigan. Got one from here. No One Window 49, Old Car just put this out this year.
Older piece though.
Yeah, it's from 1994, I think. Five. All right, No One Window 49. The thrill outhauls other Ethel authors, Daub, Agate, Gears, Gash, Duarte. Agassiz, Dear Diary, Awash Datura, Ergot, 3 in star, either the therm in still, other in theory extol, the belly below a bell, babe bleeds, obelisk ailment, Ruby Paris laments runaway urns, trap lament, pawns limit, tray barns, era lumen lambent bra, deposing limbs wailed, stems turned, zim lemon, bimbos Waldo stew, Warren Limbic, all steel, repose late all, zum nimbus, yarns Wisconsin malls, Limedon, Paris parkas harnessed, per se praxis, Landon slit, atoned furs, parse dose astounds the beer parades, yes, autozyme, Wotan lips, parade hose, tattooed in ion carp slice, attends pharaoh harp, rose spheres, warped ease phrased parapets, a tonal slit within the purple ooze of southern praise, ice Farsi chains, enzyme, choir fillet, Judas Kino coin, beware cone, flowering coda, chi trash, connotes, cane grotto, folded cedar, canoma cider, channeling zinnia, quern, and fluid chides, kennel scuds, clean grooms, ice cheddar, Neils, curdled collie, Haven's ivy codes, needs Cornell, felt fork, velours, tragic coiled quark, field speeds, coed Chinese kenosis. All right, and then I got two bonus poems. Get that later.
Poems on the floor.
What's that?
Floor poems.
Floor poems. All right. Bonus poem number 1. This is from Lost and Found Times, number 32, 1994. It's called Freud Hypnopompic. Yellow panties on parquet smile that day in the Zurich Cafe. One incisor betrayed tobacco. Would my heart beat more evenly if I could find my wallet? All those IDs, memberships. I lost 2 years of my life in a futile attempt to persuade the nurse from Manchester her name, lost to the psychopathology of everyday cocaine, that the performance of fellatio is a normal human behavior. My English was never what it might have been. Her breasts, though quite small, were not insensitive, as I recall. Once alone in a German wood, I caressed gnarled trees' bark until my palms bled. And then I'll need a volunteer to help me with this second one. Anybody? Claire?
What do you need? Glasses. Do I need to read something?
This one's not by Jim, it's by John and Kathy. It's extra bonus, number 2. So we'll do a John style. I'll read the first line, and then you will read the first line.
to it, and then we'll just keep going. Does that make sense? So like, I'll read this, and you'll start here when I get there.
Okay.
All right.
So after you put that one.
You will start there, and I'll
Got
go
it.
there. Okay.
Aghast, feeling antsful and falling through the hose toward the steaming lake. I
Aghast,
plunged deep
feeling
in water,
antsful
no
and
air,
falling through
no
the
surface
hose
tension
towards the
breaking
steaming
my
lake.
face. Awaking
I plunged
from a dream,
deep
I
in
turned
water,
toward you,
no
lifting a
air,
skin,
no
finding a
surface
hand in its
tension
mate.
breaking on my
Aghast, feeling
Awaking from
angstful
a dream,
and falling
I
through the
turned
clothes
towards you,
toward the licking
lifting
place.
a skin, finding a hand in its mate, aghast, feeling angstful, and falling through the clothes toward the licking place.
Yeah, Jim was cool. It sucks that he's gone.
Yeah.
I realized I do have one poem I wrote for Jim. So I'll do that. All right. This is Transmutation, apt for Jim Leftwich. Released a seismic node blunk, out sudden gale grammar author, but room sage stamp, shirt sheet rock, Dow read via letterist negativa, bollard book link list, iteration on folding backache a chair, chat midden it TL press acts infinite collab fest of saint rested the vestibule rights post semantric loss spread word put recedes in putlacent cumulus vacuum bodiless in the river useless writhing posed torque juxta maale at beanie file voided stoic thrive add rifts netpan scenic marks extortant spot at play haunt relict closet death text archive everspark zimzoom grits grants ellipsis with dust from Leftwich Nonner 19 and Leftwich Bennett and Krauss the virus variations.
I have a couple copies of Jim's essay on John's P-text poems, if anybody wants to read more about how it breaks down.
Yeah, I want to know.
And in case any people haven't noticed, there's also a little exhibition of stuff from his archive right along the wall here.
Sorry.
Most of that stuff is unpublished, or little bits and pieces may have been published in journals, but these were all from the 90s. When you, there was no way to publish that much of this kind of stuff.
Ruelisen Tessa, Kim Kep. Kim Icky Kip Lig, or Nag Lift Daff. Meslid Ver, Tor Kurnag. Bat Rur, Rud Cud. Turdre Rur Kim, Keptik Lat Fin. Daff Mes Det, Ver Tor Kurnag. Tiv Bat Nurur. Tur Rudinkud. Nag Tur Drerur. Kim Jin Iki Kep. 051302.